everyone, welcome to Fallout Podcast 142, aka Camus is not your boyfriend. It's a futile false showdown, all 525 songs going head to head. We're round two, a work in progress during 2026. Annotate the Fall, RIP. Joined, as always, by the Pemberton Walker, Alistair. How you doing, Al?
I'm good. Not used to doing podcasts at this time.
You just said that.
I have, yeah, but it wasn't recording, was it, Brendan?
Are you drunk?
It's late o'clock, and to make it even more difficult, the clocks go back, no forward in the UK.
Indeed.
Today, so, yeah.
And
it's like an hour later.
Yeah, fair enough. And we'll be joined by Marquis Trois from the other side, but very lucky to have a guest, Tim Kinsella. You might know him from Owls, Make Believe, Good Fuck, Friend Enemy, and maybe one or two other bands we might mention along the way. But Tim, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll do my best for you.
Well, tonight we've got Telephone Thing versus Deadbeat Descendant. Is This New versus 10 Hours of Eve, and Riddler versus Oh Brother. Tim, what's your knowledge, experience, story, or lack of with this band, The Fall?
I love them. In the 90s, my early 20s, they're one of the later punk bands I discovered, which I imagine is true for a lot of people. And like a lot of bands that I've had experience with for a long time, like I think about the first Bad Brains record a lot, how like how I can kind of gauge how my hearing has changed.
Yeah.
Because like that record stays the same, but it like affected me in a certain way when I was 13. And then I was like, at 30, I was like, oh shit, I'd never really heard this before. And now at 50, I'm like, oh my God, like just a deepening appreciation for in the case of Bad Brains, it's like the technical, like almost the athletic feat of it. Like how do they do this? Which is different than The Fall, but like, and even Black Flag, like I had the records as a kid, but I feel like I didn't get Black Flag till I was like 35, and because they aren't like as immediately catchy as like, Minor Threat even.
Sorry, I was going to say Minor Threat then, like, but young age was in stuff like Drop Dead. Do you know?
I was never into that. Wait, what about Drop Dead? Why?
Oh, Drop Dead. They were fucking excellent hardcore punk band, but it was like a good 10 years later than Minor Threat. But they really nailed how to do like the grind thing. It's the dead short burst of energy, but with like there's always like a hook in there or a catch in there that gets your attention.
Yeah, and so The Fall I didn't have like the sort of teenager experience with that I did with these other bands. It was more like early 20s. I got like Hex Induction Hour and Nation Saving Grace and Perverted by Language. Is that what?
Yeah.
Like I had those CDs, and then I don't have any CDs anymore. So like as the technology went more or less obsolete, I lost a huge swath of my collection. The Fall. Then I was married when I was younger, and my ex-wife, like after we broke up, she was with this guy who did a fall night, like a monthly all fall things. So then I kind of resented them a little bit. So I kind of tuned them out for some years. But still, like when I hear them, they're always the best sounding band to me. But it's also one of those bands. I so appreciated getting this playlist from you, because if anyone points out any few songs, my mind is totally blown.
Yeah.
And I love it so much. Like the depth of what's happening there, but superficially it seems like a lot of the same, and so I don't know I've never been immersed enough to like know the whole span. You couldn't like play me two songs and say which record's this and which record's this.
Yeah. I think that's one of what we've learned from this kind of process, and that's why it doesn't really matter what level of knowledge someone has of The Fall. If they are prepared to engage with those songs, there's an interesting kind of conversation to be had. All right, and I sort of mentioned, there's a whole bunch of stuff that is either diametrically opposed or really connected in my mind to the stuff that you've made. Because I've been a big fan for a long, long time, and it was really good for me this week, last couple of weeks, to kind of go back into your back catalogue and look for connections. And I was like, the first thing was like, I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to play the first song. So, all right, let's listen to Telephone Thing and let's have a chat about that before I get completely sidetracked.
You've only just got up, Brendan. You just got out of bed. Have you had a shower? Have you had your shit? Have you had your breakfast yet?
All right. Can you hear that? Is that all right?
Oh, yeah.
Proper rock and roll video there as well. For one of those American ones when we used to remake the English videos for the American audience. I remember a particularly bad Radiohead one where they're in a shopping trolley going through a mall. Tim, what's Telephone Thing do for you?
Well, that's one of the two songs that I already knew on this list.
Yeah.
I've always loved it. The like little vocal thing, the Morse code vocal thing is so cool. I think what was interesting to me listening to all these songs together was how the consistency and the change, like maybe the most analogous band that I do have a deep knowledge of would be Lungfish, and people who have a superficial awareness of Lungfish are like, oh, doesn't it all sound the same? But then if you're paying attention, it's like, no, there's like huge differences between the records. And I think the Fall is like that, that you can sort of, their vision was sort of resilient enough that like the production values of different eras and like what they're doing with like his voice, it always sounds good.
Yeah.
Like even if the production values are weird, And so this is like a longer song and like has this groove that sounds like it was, I don't know what year this is, but it sounds like it could be like kind of a trendy hit, but it still sounds like The Fall without compromising either of those, the trendy hit quality or The Fall themselves.
That idea of the vision being strong enough to see through the production, and so obviously they're known for having a lot of members, and one thing Smith would do is let, to some extent, them play their part. And which meant that, and this idea that it's always the same, but it's always different. And
but this was about 1990, Brendan.
It was 1990, so this is a collaboration with Cold Cut, who...
you kind of like, if you put it into context, that you had like the big Manchester thing kicking off just after this. So again, it was a bit like not precog, but they were above, they were ahead of the time with what they were doing, but they were a bit too ahead of the time for this one for it to be a hit. If they'd done it about 6 months later, it might have like tied into sort of like the Happy Mondays and Storm Roses and everything getting big, because it's a catchy tune, like breakbeats, bit Public Enemy with all the noise. So you got the funky beat noise, and they got like him ranting over the top of it.
Well, you know what Cold Cut were known for? They were known for that Paid in Full remix, Eric B. and Rakim, right? Cold Cut did that. That was their big thing. And then I think that was before this. And then they came and for some reason decided to collaborate with Mark Smith and the Fall. But this leads me into my first question, actually, Alistair. Well done for that link. The idea of the scene and the city, right? So Tim, obviously you were coming up in kind of the punk scene, but especially once Joan of Arc's kicked off, you had the post-rock thing going on in the city, which, from reading and listening, I was not sure your kind of feeling on the connection with that scene. Because when the Gap came out, and it was like people, some of the reviews saying it was like crazy, and I'm like, have you listened to any of the kind of post-rock stuff that was going on in Chicago at the time? Because to me, it made perfect sense. Anyway, I'm rambling. What's your kind of connection to the scenes of Chicago?
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of those people are my friends, still. Yeah, it was incredibly liberating to... I went to high school in the suburbs here, and, we were in the city every weekend. But once I moved here and I started meeting... I don't know, meeting painters. Like, I just knew skateboarders and punks. And then you start meeting, like, painters, and you're like, oh, these guys like the same obscure movies that we do. And they read the same obscure books that we do. And then musically, meeting jazz musicians and DJs, and just, it was like the doors were blown wide open for me in those years. I now do my best I can each day to keep these doors blown as open as possible. But that was definitely the moment culturally where, it was just an incredible permissiveness creatively,
But Smith moved out of Manchester when the scene went down. He kicked back against that kind of scene, while at the same time started making music like this, right? So there was a kind of a conundrum in there, and I wondered whether, because there's definitely some of the stuff I've read with you that says, we're definitely not math rock, it's definitely not Midwest emo. It's kind of like,
yeah. I feel zero connect, like either of those terms. Like I could name a few math rock or Midwest emo band names, but like I don't own those records or go to those shows, and that's not historical revisionism on my part trying to come across as cooler than I was. It was just like zero attachment. And it's kind of like there's that thing, right, where I don't know, when something can be paraphrased as representing some genre or movement, that just like really takes all the life of it out of it for me, So
yeah.
But so this would be like around that era, late 90s. That's when I was first excited about the Fall. And a lot of it was, my ears were able to tune into wrong sounding right for the first time, Like there's a big no wave scene here.
Yeah.
At a lot of those shows. Not that the Fall was ever no wave, but like, always a little out of tune. And even when they're in tune, it's like there's certain simple bass lines in some of these songs you sent where it's like, oh, is that guy just like can't play the bass very well and he can't articulate the note exactly, And that is a great sound to me.
Twin sister, introduce a tongue twister. My stomach can break. Slam is one in the same. Well, this one baked at my blister, while this one played shell games of names. symmetrical eel. She had two black eyes, like symmetrical eel across her cheekbone. Sirens shot the crime scene dizzy. A car alarm at a dog's bark, crying in a cop's arm. Ooh, the infinite blessed yes. Spell repeat, spell and spell. Do over and over, do over and over, do over and over, do over and over, do over and over.
There's an intuitive part.
I think the rhythm set, the bass is part of the rhythm section, so it's like you've got to have a drummer that understands what you're doing to make it right. Mm-hmm. So you can do whatever that is wrong, but you've got to have that intuitive kind of like instinct to make it complete.
That's exactly right, Alistair. I agree. What do you think of the song Telephone Thing, though, by The Fall, Alistair?
Yeah, love it. Being a young kid at the time when it came out, and going to gigs where I was tall enough to get into them and get served at the bar.
What's that?
Alistair, are you a tall guy?
I'm
slightly below average, yeah, which is why that's such a strange boast.
I'm not as tall as my brother, but I was tall enough to get served in pubs where they think I was 18, and I wasn't.
That was England in the 1990s, right? There was no I remember when I went to the States the first time, and I was really 40, and they checked my ID, and I was like, in England, they just ask how tall you are.
Yeah.
That was, they didn't ask for any ID or anything like that. It was like, oh yeah, he looks old enough. So that was great. And I remember going down to the International One in Manchester in 1990, watching, it was Revenge, which was like a Pete Hook band.
Oh yeah,
yeah, they were shit. Just like hearing like through the sound system them playing this, because it was like indie disco type thing going on. But fuck me, like the bass in it like just hitting you. And like the song, it builds up a bit, you know, it's like there's a while before the bass kicks in. And being at the International One, hearing that, having only, I knew the song, but yeah, I've only like previously heard it through like kind of like transistory kind of quality crap sound systems.
Good. All right, that'll do. That'll do. Thanks.
No, like I'm not finished yet.
Go on.
Like I kind of like mentioned that the noise that's going on in the background, the guitar's fucking amazing.
It is good,
Yeah.
but it's buried so low in the mix, right?
That's it. Yeah, and that's the problem, and which makes it sound like it doesn't really go anywhere after a while. But it's a fucking fantastic song. Love it. Got great memories of it. But the bass on that is the bass and the drums, the funk.
It sounds. I feel like it sounds so extra cool because, like, Marky Smith is not cool by any normal standards of rock singer.
Yeah,
you know, but he's the coolest. But like, you know, he like, how old was he at that point? Like,
1990. He was 30, I think.
Oh my God, still so young, right? So young. I'm 20 years older than he was.
Yeah.
But he still looks like so much older than I think I look. I don't know. But but like,
hard life in the north.
Huh?
It's a hard life in the north of England.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think just the fact that, you know, there's something like ESG, right? Like this bass line might not be that far off from like a ESG song, where it's just like, oh, they're maybe not really even using their left hand, but it sounds so cool and like just in its primal coolness.
It's the key to the sound all the way through, and Steve Hanley, it stayed around until about 97, 98. In fact, the 10 Houses of E that we get to is kind of the last thing he was on. But yeah, it's key to the sound, whether or not he's playing Don't Fear the Reaper as he does on the next song. But he's but this like, yeah, but he yeah, the bass is at the absolute core. And of course, this is a really unusual kind of song because I think they'd kind of this is the beginning of they probably weren't using Pro Tools at this point, but maybe they were. But they were definitely chopping. What's that?
There's no way they were using Pro Tools in 90.
Too early, because I know you talked about you got it quite early on, right?
Yeah, but even that was you know, I certainly wasn't the first person in the world to use it.
No.
But like, I was the first of my friends to use it, and that was 97, 98.
Yeah. So this is probably tape splice. This is because they're definitely cutting up Mez's vocals, and that's something that becomes more predominant later. I don't know if there's many songs on this list that do that, but there's clearly a point in about the turn of the century, maybe a little earlier, where they start chopping Smith's vocals up to make it fit into a more rigid pattern.
Now, I don't know if this is a digression, but it is about the Fall. But I have a friend who, I guess, to protect the innocent, I will not say his name, but there was a Fall tour in the States, I don't know, somewhere around 2010, give or take a couple of years, where the whole band quit while they were on tour.
Oh, yeah. We
Yeah.
talked to the drummer last week, 2 weeks ago, who quit, Spencer. He told us.
Oh, really?
He told us his perspective. But yeah, please continue.
That was very interesting, Brendan.
So a friend of mine got the call like, hey, are you free to leave on tour tomorrow? Can you learn however many Fall songs as quick as possible? So my friend did that tour, and he said Marky Smith's like his move the whole tour was walking amp to amp and just like jacking everyone's knobs on their
Standard practice.
That's why he did. It's insane. Yeah, that's his thing, right? So he would go around and he would kind of mix live on stage, which meant basically turning people's amps off. And so at one point, the drummers made a fake bass drum mic because he would keep moving it. So they would have a fake mic in front of the bass drum and the real one, like, you know, inside or something hidden. So he'd move it around. Yeah. I mean, you've kind of narrowed it down to 3 people there, and I won't call anyone out. I was going to ask you if you knew Tim Presley and any of the lads from that Reformation band, because they came over to Manchester and made the record. And one thing we've said about that record, which is called Post-Reformation TLC, is it's really rushed. There's some really good stuff on there, but a lot of it's kind of, they've clearly had to bang it out pretty quickly. And they're amazing musicians. That's really clear. And we've dreamed many times of what that next album would have sounded like if they'd stuck around, but they all went back to their, I guess, day jobs, and he got his new band.
Brendan, I kind of worry about any traumatic experiences that these people had living in Manchester or like Prestwich at the time.
They were in Rochdale, I believe, as he talks about them going to the...
Like completely transplanted from the other side of the world to fucking Rochdale.
Yeah, but these were touring musicians. They'd lived their life. I mean, yeah, I'd love to talk to Tim about it at some point, but I think he's been on the Old Brother podcast. I mean, I love his stuff with White Fence, and I especially love Kate Le Bon's stuff and the drink stuff he's done. But I won't press you on which one of the three dudes, but that's great. Fantastic. Those digressions are very welcome. So we do have a few people who are like on the interwebs, our Patreon and friends who've thrown in a few things. Michael Lee said, adding dance elements to the Fall could have been seen as bandwagon jumping, but they'd already dipped their toes in with Hit the North. This track would have happened even if the rest of the scene had stuck copying My Bloody Valentine. It's still unmistakably the Fall due to his vocals and Hanley's bass being in the mix. Max said, this is the year when everyone started making sample-driven music. They got some great producers in, and it feels more like a collab than a proper Fall song, and really highlights Steve weird out-of-tune bass, or maybe it's the overtones. And then Stu, our friend, picked up on the fact that the bass may be out of tune. Anyone else disturbed by the out-of-tune bass? It sounds like it's half a semitone sharp at points. The bass drums and vocals are great, but everything else is total shit. That constantly wacka guitar is awful and makes the whole thing into an irritating slab of cheese. So Bram would come back. Yeah.
I mean, there is a thing that gives it this extra power where a lot of the time, not just this song, but this is a good example of this, where it seems like he's critiquing the thing that he's doing at the same time as he's doing it, you know, like they're capitalizing on the power of the funk.
Yeah.
You know? Wow.
It's funk. This is pure funk. The bass and the fucking drums. Yeah, it could come from any era.
But he seems to be. But you know, like, is it making fun of funk at the same time that it is effectively
in the way that they're kind of like shitting all over it, you know, with the guitar, and it's not just wacka, as Stu said. It's at times it's like, you know, they're making some fucking noise over that.
Well, they are,
you know,
and Craig is
Public Enemy thing before. It's like they've got like they're getting the funk going on. They've got the noise going. This is like fucking
Rebel Without a Pause. Yeah, of course it is. But you know, it's not intentional. Here's the interesting thing. So Hanley talks about going to the States on that first tour, and New Order had gone at a similar time. And when New Order went, they went to New York, Chicago, LA, and they took what was happening in the clubs and they brought it back. Oh, yeah. And it seems to have had zero impact on the Fall. So they went same club, same time, and they're like, oh, we'll just carry on doing what we were doing. So it's the same way when they went to LA, as the hardcore scene was breaking, and they were playing with like I don't think they played necessarily Black Flag, but
no, I was going to say Black Flag.
Well, Claude Bessie was organising the tour, right, and he was part of that scene, and they're like, we didn't notice. So we just came back and continued doing what we were doing.
Yeah.
Stop hitting yourself.
I hate you telephone thing. How dare you assume I want to parlez-vous with you, Gretchen Franklin. I'm not gonna let you talk about Gretchen Franklin anymore, Alistair. You've had enough of that. Smith himself said it was rubbish. He said most of the stuff on it was no good. And all that, and it was a bit political in the sense that it was apparently referring to, on top of Smith's ongoing obsession with being tapped and people watching him.
It's a song about paranoia. It's really paranoid song.
It is, but yeah. Paranoia is all the way through his stuff, isn't it? And this does seem to be at least grounded in a data protection act that was kind of being pushed through at the time. He said that one time he picked up his phone and the people who were tapping him were like chatting on it, and he had to tell them to stop talking. Absolutely madness. All right, let's move on. Let's see how far we get into this list with the time we've got. But second track, Deadbeat Descendant, from a couple of years earlier or later, I forget. Oh, we've got to watch a few Japanese adverts, unfortunately.
Japanese adverts, they're always the best bits.
That's how I'm getting Alistair culturally, aligned with the Japanese mode.
I'm well into Spiders. That was a great 1960s Japanese band with the guy who was in Monkey.
He's still on television. I saw him the other day, actually. He's a comedian. Yeah, he's still around. Anyway, let's watch this song. Not this one.
There's a dance that is pure hell. Enter at your peril. Take 5 deadbeat steps to a stroll. Act like you just got out of jail. You must be repellent. The dance could be descendant. Deadbeat descendant.
That's what we need. We need a dancer. We need a dancer in this room right now.
A dancer. It's so good.
Tim, what's your thoughts on Deadbeat Descendant?
It's hard to not. I mean, I realize the dancer is not part of the song, but it's hard to not think of the dancer's presence because they constantly do this high-low thing, highbrow, lowbrow.
Yeah.
And and I think from their perspective, there probably isn't a highbrow element, but it's they're just smart. I mean, I could make an argument. I don't know if this is like the exact moment or context to say this, but like I could make an argument that okay, great, like really amazing bands. A lot of bands rip them off, right?
Yeah.
Like Fugazi, an incredible band. You hear a band that sounds like Fugazi, it always sucks. Like Shellac, Slint. Slint is amazing. It's hard to remember and realize how great Slint is because so many bands do such a shitty second-rate Slint,
Yeah.
But when a band rips off the Fall, it just makes them better. Like I can't think of another band that's good enough.
That's a really interesting perspective to take on it, and you're like, yeah, I can see where you're coming from there.
There's always a popular new band ripping off the Fall, and they always sound better than other popular new bands to me. At least they sound like the Fall.
But they still sound like a shitty version of the Fall, unfortunately, and that's why.
Yeah. So I'm saying, but what other people take from them makes them better instead of just coming across as stupid. And I don't know. This song specifically, I guess it's the presence of the dancer because they're playing this like it's sort of as surfy as they get, right? So they're pointing to this like the feel is this like different kind of teeny bopper thing, and then they have the like improvising ballet dancer. It's so good.
The thing is, and this is so Bricks there, that this is probably the last song she did with them because she was out right after this. So the telephone thing song we heard was only like a year later than this. And Bricks was gone, so that like they're and she had a really positive influence on Mark in terms of probably getting him over some of that Northern English kind of like aversion to being seen as pretentious or being seen as kind of arty and accept it. And this is the era where he wrote the play Hey Lucia. And
you had Factory Records going on at the same time who were overtly arty and right up their own arse and Northern English.
I mean, not real art though, is it, Alistair?
Taking art into creating a fucking space for things to do like the Hacienda. They were fucking arts based.
Well, it was Wilson, wasn't it? His situationist affectations. Rest in peace.
Tony Wilson, Grenade Reports. Good night.
Very good. So Tim, because at this time, here's another vague connection that I managed to make, but I want to ask you about. So this time they did the ballet. They were working Michael Clark, who they did the ballet Curious Orange, which is weird in and of itself, right? You've kind of when I first saw Live in Chicago in 1999 and the cover of it for years, and it really inspired me actually. I thought that was a real stage play that you had put on, and it was only, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe you did, but because
No, we didn't.
it's scenes from the weekend, right, by Godard, and it's like that really inspired me because I really believed that that record was part of that scene. Now I know later you did the testimonian songs and stuff.
Yeah.
So what's kind of your take and your experience on working with those other forms?
It's funny that what's the fall thing? Curious Orange?
Curious Orange is one, and they did Hey Luciani, which is a more straight up, if you abstract stage play based on
When
the
we
pulp.
started Testimonium, we were definitely like Bobby, who played in Joan of Arc's, huge Fall fan, and my roommate at the time is a Fall obsessive, and so both of them were like, "Oh, this is your Curious Orange," and I must have been, I don't know, 37 years old or something when we were doing it. So it's like, that I was still living above the bar that I started working at when I was 25. My 25th birthday, in fact, was my first day. And I'm going there when we finish this talk to see someone play. But, I was living upstairs from the bar for $400 a month, which is like a third of what anyone else would pay for rent at the time. And so getting an invitation to do this thing that would be performed in contemporary museums and stuff and like be ourselves, but also kind of tilt it to that context, was very, so yeah, in the most like careerist aspect, it was exciting for me in that way. Because it was like, oh, maybe I'll have an opportunity to age a little more gracefully as a rocker. But I learned so much from those people, and they're our neighbors, the theater company that put together Testimonium. Yeah, me and Jenny's neighbors, and we still collaborate with them all the time. I feel like the luckiest person in the world to have these mentors.
How did that kind of work? Because obviously I hadn't seen the show. How did the kind of songs interact with what was happening on stage? How did you do that?
There was there was the three of us and two other people. That thing was so locked in. It was an hour and 40 minutes long, and it was so precise that they timed, like, I don't know, I think we did it again a couple of years later, but the first time we just did it 10 times, and they timed them all. And the difference between like the longest and the shortest version was like 10 seconds.
Wow.
That margin of error over an hour and 40 minutes is insane, but that's just how precise and exacting these people are. So the one guy was the
That's like real discipline.
Yeah, it was so nerve-wracking to perform. It was like as soon as it would finish, we would just slam as many beers as possible. It was just like so stressful.
Did you need to go to the toilet as well?
Yeah, sure. As soon as we were, because an hour and 40 minutes.
Was that for a wee or a poo?
For what? A wee or a poo?
Was that the one where Dave Grubbs was playing in the band with you as well?
He plays on the record. So the record, he plays second. He's really tight with Lynn and Matthew, who run the theater company. Like old friends with him.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had him and Fred Lomberg home and Michael Zarang and what's his name? He's always hits himself on the head. Jim Baker. They like sort of improvised over. I don't know why we came to that decision, but they didn't do it. They weren't part of the show. The show was the narrator and then a guy who would just do these sort of silent, almost Charlie Chaplin kind of things, like building these long mousetrap kind of concoctions, and then he would like fall over, and it was very intense. So it would be, and then our equipment moved around a lot on stage. Like that was part of the stage was very spare, and like part of the narrative would be that the gear was getting moved around the whole time. So every time we'd go back up and play, we're in a different position.
Okay, yeah. People turning your amps off as well.
None of that.
Just to keep you on your toes.
Of those teeth of yours, important and amazing. table shakes enough to save the day. It's alright. So the sirens beat on by. Can you find yourself a current inoculation? It's alright. Out of the orphan asylum, at her first job in the boundary. And yes sir, oh so anxious to please. She stood at the table, her blonde hair hanging about her shoulders, knocking up for the stitcher. There were 20 stitching machines worked by a shaft under the table as each stitcher put work through the machine.
I feel like I'm so lucky that
Blush.
Division.
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 Yeah.
The discipline thing, I know, I remember Marsha, who was playing keyboards in the Fall when they did Curious Orange, was talking about their discipline, the fact they'd recorded a bunch of demos, given it to Michael Clark, who was a ballet dancer, and then they'd gone on tour, expanded these songs, and then they had to go back and learn the demos kind of like by the second so that they could play.
Right.
And you know, the Fall, not necessarily known for their tightness, but
Yeah.
that's,
It's linking up a bunch of musicians, so-called musicians who've got no training whatsoever, into working with a ballet like troupe who are very disciplined and have done studied everything. How did that come together?
I mean, that goes back to
it's mad that he did, but you've got your own kind of like experience of similar kind of mashups with those disciplines. Because it's like you're a musician, they're a dancer, somebody is an actor. In the blending of everything, making it work well.
I mean, there's something. It forces you working cross disciplines like that to come up with You asked about math rock and emo earlier, and this is a funny thing to say about a genre called emo, but ultimately we all respond to how music makes us feel. Very, very infrequently am I impressed by virtuosity or skill or something, which is part of what's so amazing about the Fall. They're doing all this. It's so expressive and expansive because of their imaginations, not because of their chops, And I think people get chops and they think that's enough, but then it just feels like nothing, And in fact, chops become a limitation to remembering that music is ultimately about how it makes you feel. So when you work across disciplines like that, it makes you really hone in on some essential quality of what is this dancer trying to express and what are we trying to express with music, and what's it have to do with the narrator? Because we can't talk to each other in the same shorthand of our own within our own discipline.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Smith, that was another dichotomy in the sense that he would talk about that he really wanted that. And he was kind of it was a very worst example of, do as I say, not as I do, because he wanted that. Then on, from the stories, he was the one that often derailed that, which is, I think, part of having an unknown quantity in the mix, isn't it, Alistair?
There's always lots of things in the mix with the Fall, isn't there?
What do you think of Deadbeat Descendant, Alistair? What do you reckon to that song?
Love it. I bought the single when it came out. and Carry Up's the B-side, or is it the
No, it is the B-side.
Yeah, but I love that as well. Like, but this is a really good example of Fall being dead garagey. Not so much the Monks, but like the more Sonics kind of like fucking groove to it. But there's like a proper like 1960s garage rock feel to it to me. It's a lovely one. I'll leave it at that.
It's a fake dance song, right? So the his lyrics are here's a dance as pure hell, enter at your peril, take 5 deadbeat steps, do a stroll, act like you just got out of jail, you must be repelled. So he wrote about 2 or 3 of these fake kind of like do the twist. I came across one of yours, Tim, which was do the stand on 1 foot dance to the radio rodeo. Was that an attempt at this, or was that just a good title?
Oh yeah, it's a Friend Enemy song. Yeah, no, it definitely was referencing that sort of tradition of do the jive, do the mashed potato, do the stand up.
I really like do the banana splits by the Banana Splits, and the Banana Splits, the LP, for Bubblegum Pop, brilliant LP and some top fucking funk. But also do the Funky Penguin if you're gonna go down the songs that we're using for dance stuff.
Yeah.
The fucking robot dance by Bruce Hack.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
Very good indeed. I think that video is beautiful. The song itself, I could kind of take or leave. I do like it at times, but it's a bit light for me. And whether or not Brix's last attempt at getting them to do something poppy, and it didn't break. It didn't make the charts as far as I know. Marsha and Craig absolutely inaudible, so there's no guitar, no keyboards, even though they're playing. And on the kind of recorded version, there's a little bit more, but the mix is very much kind of bass, drums, vocal heavy. Michael Lee says it's a great energetic track that does everything right. I enjoyed it immensely, but it doesn't make it into the top tier. Stu says beautifully theatrical, even without the beautiful video here. It's tight and plotted. The keys are proper cheesy, but it works towards it without cheapening it. Just a great tight pop song. While Max says the standout track from Seminole, and it crackles with the same energy as Australians in Europe. Is this Brix's last song? If so, she left you on a big fuck you high mark. And yeah, apparently it's a Flintstones reference. There's an episode where they go to the future, and the great Gazoo sends them into the 21st century. And
yeah, that's the band when the Flintstones go to the future. We're going way out, way out. Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah,
and the Mr. Slate comes out with his saying, "Come back here, you deadbeats, Descendant," and that's let me take a slight digression into the idea of the media and getting your song ideas from it, because did I remember reading once back in there? I mean, you're very process led in a lot of your things, I would say. Tell me if I'm wrong on that. But
100%.
Yeah, one of Smith's. I was just going to say one of Smith's things was to sit down and watch TV and just kind of filter it through that. And I think I read something where you would open up magazines or dictionaries and you would kind of like take those things and let them filter.
Yeah, for a lot of years, that was my, my lyric writing process for many, many years. And I guess I do it less now, but still a few times a year for sure. I don't really... Well, whatever, this is like, who cares? I would just, get blazingly stoned, pray to the great green orb at the center of the mystery, and open the dictionary and drop my finger and be like, okay, there's a word. And then flip and put my finger down the next word, and then just kind of see, just kind of trust the process of that. Just like, where will this lead me? And then kind of sort of pull from...
Like jazz with scatting though, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the concreteness of language, words, but I would pull, like if there's... It was very much more of a Throbbing Gristle thing, or like a Burroughs kind of thing. But yeah, then you have 2 words and you're like, well, what in the world? I'm not even going to debase the process by trying to think of examples, but But these two words that you're like, well, what in the world do they have in common? And then you kind of squish them together, and you take a sound from this word and a sound from this word, and they, other words emerge from it. So I did a lot of surrendering to the fates, and then looking very closely to see where the words would lead me.
I think one of the and it seems that Smith did a lot of that. I mean, the site, the annotated fall, that I'm not sure if you come across, where people have tried to pick out where his references are. And within any of these, there's very explicit references like the Flintstones, and then very definitely more oblique or kind of interpreted. But I think the difference is, it seems to be that I got that zine that you made a little while ago about your process for your last album that you.
How to make your album. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. It's very, very cool, and kind of sets it out in a way that Mark Smith definitely never would. And that was the interesting difference, in the sense that it seems like you were very much about curating it, going back, and he was very much about like first take, best take, or just kind of
I still drive a lot of people nuts with how much I'm a believer in first take, best take.
Yeah.
I rework things. I mean, this sounds paradoxical. I rework things a lot, and then when they get there, I don't want them to be overdone. Like, I remember American Football was recording at the same time that me and Jenny were making our last record, and I hung out with my brother afterwards, and he asked about our process and how things went, and I remember I said, well, we aren't going to do a third take, and he thought that was like the funniest thing he ever heard, and he was like, I haven't released a song with a single element that I didn't play 30 times in 20 years. Like, what do you mean you're not going to do a third take? It's like, oh my God, I would never do a third take of something. But the songs get rewritten and rewritten and rewritten before those takes.
I mean, it has to, like the Owls stuff, and I know Victor's playing guitar on that. I don't know if you're both playing guitar, but I suppose that first Owls album is just incredibly tight, interlocking pieces, and it's kind of like, was that just through like practice and repetition of those ideas?
I mean, we actually wrote that record in 5 days, and like 5 very long days. It was in a friend of ours' dad owned some factory that had like a locker room. We didn't have anywhere to practice, and this guy let us go in their locker room and set up and play when they closed at like 5 o'clock. So we just did like 5 days in a row, practicing from like 5 p.m. till sunrise. And then we wrote the whole record in those 5 days. And then, Victor obviously had the riffs written, and him and Sam and my brother have like a shorthand in how they communicate. I was probably at my most Marky Smith. I thought it was my most Captain Beefheart at the time. Like, I was really obnoxious with like sitting there like, no, hit that accent one beat later, and then being like, what? No, that's not where it lands. Like, yes, it has to be where it lands. I would never do that now, but at the time I was really overbearing in that.
Yeah, well, I if time allows, I do want to ask you about Beefheart, which seems to be a connecting tissue between.
I got a nice Don Van Vliet tattoo.
Oh,
is this a video podcast or just audio?
It'll be audio, but I'd like to see it. There you go.
Yeah, it's Docket Radar Station era.
Beautiful. Gotta love Don. Yeah. Well, let's take a vote on the first two songs. So it's Telephone Thing versus Deadbeat Descendant. Al, which way are you going? Where have you been? You've been on a bit of a wander there.
I went for a piss.
All right. Thankfully, you turned your video off. Which way are you going? Telephone Thing or Deadbeat Descendant?
It's a really close one, this, because I love them both. And they're so tightly knitted together time-wise. It's going to be Telephone Thing because the funk. Deadbeat Descendant's brilliant for like the garagey kind of like noise. But yeah, the funk and the noise going over the top of it. It's Telephone Thing, even though it's not. I'll give it 8 out of 10. No, it's not a 10 out of 10. It's
all right. Good.
What's do you scoring it? Because that's
not telling you. Not telling you.
He's the guy who knows how to score stuff.
He does know how to score stuff, but I'm not telling you what his score is. Tim, which way do you going on
this? Thing. Yeah, Telephone Thing for sure.
Yes.
I saw the Fall twice, but I could not even tell you like what the set lists were. Like it was just kind of like, and this is what I was saying about how it's helpful when someone says, listen to this specific song, because like Deadbeat Descendant wouldn't have grabbed me if you didn't ask me to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
It just sounds like the Fall sounding a little surfier, but Telephone Thing is really exciting to me.
It's so remarkable when we put these 6 songs together, and they're pretty much randomly chosen, which is why I was surprised to find the last song is also the title of an album that you put out. Oh, brother, totally coincidental. Yeah, but then you look and it's like, well, they all sound the same. It's like post-punk, you got Mark Smith growling over it, and then but there is a remarkable amount of range in there. Deadbeat Descendant, Michael E, Max, and Stu have all voted for Deadbeat Descendant.
Good on it.
I'm going for Telephone Thing, so it's a draw, and I will deal with which one goes through later. So no progress made, which is always good. And that takes us to the third song. Tim, you've got to go in about 20 minutes or so, I think. So we'll crack on and see how far we get.
Okay, let's do it dead quick.
We do it dead quick. We will not compromise on the Fall.
That's it.
What is 20 minutes?
We heard that one now.
It was something like Judge and Jerry, or Jeremy Kyle, nobody knew, but still it was elusive. And though they pursued Mr. J. Archer as he separated everywhere, they knew Dot was his mom, but still they went on searching and searching. I was provoked. It was not in accord with any known law.
I was provoked. So this is the record after your buddy's record. This is Imperial Wax Solvent. So this is the gang you got together that stayed together for the last 10 years or so. Tim, what's your thoughts on whatever this song's called?
This is new.
Me?
Yeah, Tim. Sorry.
Yeah, totally cool. Not again, doesn't stand out to me as exceptional, but I like being asked to pay attention to it specifically. I think there is a great, like, even when we talk about how they're sloppy and they aren't virtuosic, but this is later, you said, right?
This is about 2008, something like that. Yeah.
So I think there is when we talk about virtuosity versus not virtuosity, it's like there's a real misconception that punk bands can't play, you know, like, but this is later, so that they can't. But I'm gonna shut the fuck up. I'm babbling.
No, it's good to babble. It's good to babble. Take a bit of time away from Alistair.
I'm tripping over trying to say two things, but they're kind of contradicting each other, and it doesn't make sense with the timeline of when this came out, anyways. So I think
perfect.
If it was the only Fall song I ever heard, I would not be particularly a Fall fan.
No, and I think that's backed up by our buddies on the other side, that Michael E says, it's a fun stop-start track with some great lines in it. It doesn't need to be any longer. Stu said, not really very new, but a good time. No concept of the concept. I remember being surprised how fresh and energetic it sounded, so Stu likes it. Good shit, he says. Max says, Mez is in the dock. I bet this would have the lawyer cacking his pants. Please, Mr. Smith, you behave yourself. That's what's happening in the video in my head. Something about it makes me think of Bollywood. Okay, brilliant. So I did not get Bollywood. I got a kind of anodyne Beefheart kind of riff to start with, and then settled into some real meat and potatoes kind of chug. And really the only thing about it for me is Mark's kind of really grizzled, growly kind of approach, especially the I was provoked line. His voice developed over the years in a number of ways, and the growly stuff came in towards the end, which is unusual because most people go smoother as they get older. He got more aggressive, I would say. Alistair, what did you think of Is This New?
It's kind of standard, in it, like, you know, but it's like a Bad Horses or something. What was the fucking band that he did before then?
Coach Whips. What's that? Sorry.
the band before OCs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Brown? Wasn't he in
Pink,
that?
he did Pink and Brown, he did Coach
There was
Whips.
Pink and Brown. There was another one like
Coach Whips, Al. You're thinking of
Oh,
Coach
he was-
Whips.
Coach Whips. I am thinking of Coach Whips because I've got I bought that stuff back in the day, and it's like it's still there in the fucking back catalogue. The stuff that I don't have enough time to listen to because I'm doing this shit for you, Brendan.
Ever. John Dwyer, that's brilliant stuff, isn't it? He put out a F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T live album on Castleface. Have you come across John Dwyer at all, Tim? Is someone you know?
I met him one time. We played a, La Rise des Nudes.
Oh yeah.
There was like a tribute show to them in Chicago in the cemetery 2 summers ago, and I have this noise band, Who Is the Witness, it's called, and we played with John putting together a band. Yeah,
nice.
They were great. I mean, they were the headliners.
Division.
Blush coral.
Division.
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 Division. Blush coral flush.
Division.
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 Blush coral flush fuchsia.
Division.
Division. Blush coral flush fuchsia rose.
Division.
Blush coral flush fuchsia rose salmon.
Division.
Coral flush fuchsia rose. Division.
Division.
Division. Flush fuchsia.
Division.
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 Fuchsia.
Division.
Division.
P.S. Please be my salvation. You with the few, too little teeth, a tooth or too few. Outline my body, mimic my lips. They're the only thing we've in common is none of them can tell between us. Be my patron saint, sleeping in beside me. This world all your own, in every little way it is. But isn't this world really there, in every little way it is? And in their world, every word means its opposite. And it's their world, so every word means its opposite.
took the gag, or took the mission to its furthest.
He's committed to the rock and roll scene for
Yeah.
sure. He played a gig in Wigan once, and I supported him with my buddy. I don't know how that situation ended up. No one plays in Wigan, but for some reason the OCs are playing in Wigan, and they want me to support them. So that was the highlight of my rock and roll career.
Congratulations.
Maybe as time is getting short, maybe I will ask you about influences and Beefheart and Can and Noi and those things that seem to be, even though the stuff you make is often quite disparate from this Fall. I wouldn't say it sounds Fall-ish, but there's maybe a connecting tissue in attitude or something. What do you see as do you see any connection?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, even the way that I'm able to talk about it, saying like I know what I'm saying about it is a thing that people say about my own records of like, oh well, there's just too much of it for me to know any one of it well. And from the perspective of the person making it, it's just like you wake up in the morning and I'm happiest when I'm making songs. Like it's pretty simple. There's no noble ambition or vision. It's just I feel incredibly blessed or whatever to just be able to do what I love so much, And I throw a lot of songs away. So it's not like there's no quality control, In my mind, all my records are very distinct from each other. But I think that would be what I recognize from that I would have in common with the Fall. Just the sheer breadth of like I think there's a passive assumption in music that you either like get more popular or you break up. But if you just keep doing it for the sake of doing it, I think that's a whole different activity and a whole different discipline. And I think they're doing that.
Going through the cycles, one of the things which I think is sort of different is that he almost treated it not like a job, but like he was running the business of the Fall.
It was a business.
Yeah, it was a business. It was like a small business.
He was the manager.
He was the manager of a small business, and he kept him running. And they played shows every year. They put out an album every year, but that doesn't mean it was artless. It was the art.
Right.
Yeah.
It was industry.
It was industry, but I think here's an interesting.
My wife and I just changed our band name to Kinsella Impulse LLC.
Yeah.
We're like, what is this really like? Let's just get to the core. Like, we are a small company. We are presenting these songs this year.
But for me, as the consumer of that, I think that's brilliant, as long as it doesn't compromise on the art, and it doesn't need to, which is why I go to the site, and I love the way you did those archives, which was basically kind of repackaging the stuff you've done over the last few years, and I think that, I mean, to some extent, it's maybe tongue-in-cheek to think of it as a business because it's clearly operating. Yeah. But there's also a reality in it that it's kind of. You're on new records on Kill Rock Stars, I think, right?
Yeah.
That is an amazing label that has been going around since I was first aware of.
Well, Alistair, I was not going to say it because I knew those words "Kill Rock Stars" would trigger you. Right? Go on then, tell us. Oh dear, Bikini Killer, fucking love it. Well, Tim's on Kill Rock Stars now, and that's good.
I got into like Kill Rockstar stuff through reading Imports of Maximum Rock and Roll back in the fucking early 90s. And that's where, living in the UK before the internet, all that kind of shit, you had to rely on imports of US like media stuff. And then it was like, you was reading about these bands and you spy the imports of the bands, and it was fucking expensive. But you did it, and it paid off because it was like a lot of the time, you discovering like Maximum Rock and Roll. It wasn't just the hardcore punk stuff, which I fucking love. It was the garage punk stuff as well. So like stuff like the Mummies, Phantom Surfers, it was telling. It was brilliant. It was like kind of like what WFMU does now.
All right. Thanks, Sam. That's all right now. That's enough. Thanks, Tim's. What's it? Kill Rock Stars in a way is possibly the biggest record label that you've been on. Yeah.
Well, definitely in the way Elle's talking about that. I got the Kill Rock Stars compilation when it came out in 91, 92.
Is
So
that
it
the
was,
one that's kind of like black and white with a bit of gold on it?
yeah.
I've got that.
Yeah. So I was aware of it, when I was like a junior in high school or something. So it had always been a presence for me in that way. I was never an Elliott Smith fan. Like I saw him play a few times, but just never grabbed me. I used to work at a cafe where they played him all the time, like when those records came out. And so maybe that, I don't know. But that's, I'm pretty sure the Elliott Smith back catalog kind of finances my contemporary being these days, and I appreciate it immensely.
Yeah, I mean, I actually really love his stuff, but those indie labels that have that big kind of way to keep funding them is I don't know what I'm saying now, so I'm going to stop talking. So here we go. It's up against 10 Houses of Eve. I think we can squeeze in one more of these. Go on, we can do it. Let's have a listen to a little bit of shitty drum and bass from the Fall.
Deva.
Japan, I want to go so bad.
Well, I know this year, Tim was saying you maybe playing a few Cap and Jazz shows, and then you've
believe me, it's been talked about.
Well, there's definitely a love here. It's a name that I hear over here in the scene quite a lot. And I mean, let me ask you this now while watching this gin advert. No, I'm going to play this song, then I'm going to ask you the question.
Okay.
If you're going to rip someone off, rip off the best. It's clear. So, but why don't we do the Seeds song? Do it in a shitty drum and bass. It's probably passed out somewhere, but he'll be back. He'll come back in a minute. Here's the question was, so Smith was always asked about Hex Induction Hour, and he said there's always some cunt one to ask me about a musical classic I made in 1982. Obviously, you made that Cap and Jazz record, which is I think 30 years old this year. What's your thoughts on talking about Cap and Jazz or your connections to that record at this point?
I'm fine with it. I mean, I think I bristled at it when I was younger, I think because it took a long time for me to be able to make anything that people weren't just disappointed that it wasn't that. But I think at this point, 30 years later, I've made plenty of other things that demonstrate that I'm not just that 19-year-old that made that, And, obviously in a very deep and fundamental sense, it feels good to make something that a lot of people like, When we play the shows, I feel like it's the boringest music that I might play, but it's the best job I've ever had, like times 1,000. Like my last job before this, I was like kind of low handyman at some Airbnbs, like putting snakes down the drain and pulling up tons of different strangers' hair. And before that, I was doing some writing ad copy for hearing aid companies. So like if I can sing these songs that a lot of people like, what a great job,
Yeah,
it's insane for me to complain about it.
No, it was something that Smith he pushed on. They talked about at times him going back and doing Hex or doing those classic kind of albums. And this is, I guess, somewhere where you're still tapping into a scene. I imagine a lot of the people coming to the shows at this point weren't even born when that record came out, because it's had such a lasting impact. And it was the first record. It wasn't the first record that I heard of yours, but with it, I got a portable model and I was like, because I was an indie kid, I wasn't coming from the hardcore scene or whatever. So for me, it's like a really fucking great indie record. And then I heard Cap and Jazz, and I was like, fucking hell. And it's like, so, but then on, I kind of stuck with it. For me, it's like listening to the back catalogue of the Fall. Of course, Hex Induction Hour is fucking amazing. But is it the record? Is it the only record I want to hear? No. And I would just, I wish Smith was still around making records. And apparently, yeah, I counted the number of studio albums you've done, and I think, and you've got to kind of, there's no real number, of course, but I think you've released the same number as the Fall at this point, which is about 31. So, but so with your new one that's coming out in a few weeks, you've done what? You're beating.
Yeah, I win. I mean, I know that I'm like 10 years older now than Don Van Vliet when he retired from playing music.
Wow. Is that your artwork behind that we can say? Who does that artwork? That's really nice.
Oh, thanks. No, it's this tattoo artist, Robert Ryan. It's the cover of the first book I wrote, and these are the paintings that are on the cover. This is
really nice.
Thanks. Yeah, this is it's a shower head with steam, but when you put it sideways, it looks like a dick. So, I mean, it looks like a dick and balls, like, but it's a shower head with steam. Yeah.
I think you'd really love the tour diaries that Tim wrote, Al. If you've not had a gander at it, have a look.
Send me a link, Brendan. And if it's a physical book, I'll buy it. I like physical books.
Well, here's the thing, Al. You might want to ask. So, Tim, you set up a publishing kind of venture quite a few years ago. Is that right?
I don't do it anymore, and I didn't actually start it. When I wrote my first book, I had become friends with some of the guys who did it, and they put it out, and then he had to stop doing it. So he asked me to take it over, and I said yes, but I'm not, not to blow your minds here. It's a really crazy idea to ask me to run a business. Like, we put out some books that, like, one of the last ones that we put out when I was still doing it was the first English translations of Luc Dardenne from the Dardenne brothers, his journals of the making of films. And, you would think the first English translations of that would be huge, but we sold nothing, like less than 100 copies. Like, we just couldn't sell it. So when COVID hit, I haven't done it in about 5 years.
Yeah, well, I think I read your first Singer's Guide to Self-Defense. I read that when it first came out. I really enjoyed it, but it just always impressed me because one of the things about Smith, he had literary aspirations in that sense. And I think other than the play, but here's the thing about the process, right? And the intuition. And I've read about you, talking about your writing and how long it took and how many revisions you made. Whereas Smith literally turned up for Luciani with like a bag full of like beer mats with bits of the script written on. And there's like, nobody's got a full script anywhere. Yeah. I guess, do you see a benefit in working that way? That kind of like by the seat of your pants, or is that just?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, like that Friend Enemy record that you mentioned, that was, if you put it in context, like The Gap was like our first like super Pro Tools and Macs, like let's record the band as a live rock band and then just pull it apart in 100 directions. And we spent a year doing that, and then the next thing we did was like Owls, which is super precise. And then that Friend Enemy record was me and my friend Todd had all the songs written on 2 guitars and vocals. And we were like, all right, let's do this like Bob Dylan. Like, we show up to the studio, the band is there, we play the song for them once, and then we hit record, and the second time they've ever played is the song. But that's crazy because Bob Dylan is like, here's 5 chords or whatever. And we're like, okay, here's this like crazy. So if you listen to that record, it's everyone just trying to keep up.
Yeah.
And yeah, we do less of that. Me and Jenny have one EP that's especially like that. Jenny's Unbuttoned Mod Meditations.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look above, these paintings are like self-help lists there. It's the 7 Habits of Highly Productive People with just the word.
Read it for people because it's not a video thing.
It says, number 1, be proactive, Royal Trucks. Number 2, stand in mind, Royal Truck. 3, put the thing first, Royal Trucks. Think win-win, Royal Truck. Number 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Royal Truck. 6, synergize. Royal Truck. 7, sharpen the saw. Royal Truck.
No,
And I would think that
Brendan, have you just come in your pants?
well, I'm just saying there's two words there that may have triggered both me and Alistair and Royal Trucks, but we've run out of time to talk about Royal Trucks, unfortunately. But what? Yeah. So, are you living by those? Would you say?
no, but they're definitely hung in our little smoking room. Those are the rules hanging on the wall.
Yeah, the great. I'm not sure how. Well, when we had Mayo Thompson on a couple of years ago, and because he produced a few fall records, and he asked me if he wanted to be put in touch with anyone to get on, and I said I want to put me in touch with Neil Hegarty, but unfortunately, I think Neil was having a few troubles at the time. I've not heard from him. I've not heard about him, but what a fucking great band that is.
Fucking damn straight.
What did you think of the song 10 Houses of Eve, Tim? But I know you've got like 2 minutes before we got to...
Oh, not only is that my favorite of the songs in this 6, but it is, I think of it as, like, when I listen to The Fall now, I put on Hex Induction Hour or something early, but then when I, 10 Houses of Eve is what I think of as, I know it's not late, but it's later.
It's like 97. So basically the band fell apart, and this is the record as the band is falling apart. It's a really weird record.
There's no band.
There's no band.
Yeah,
There's no band. They're just going into the studio. It's like a couple of session musicians and Julian Nagel, who's really taking over. And she used to be married to the bloke who was the sound engineer on F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T, Joy Division. No, not Unknown Pleasures. So she's like a lot of fucking history, like with the Manx scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this song. The way that you think the bass is there, and then that lower bass comes in, then there's like that big throb, and it just falls apart. And this is like what I was saying earlier about the funk, that they seem to be enjoying the funk while critiquing the funk. Like that's how I read this kind of like, sounds like the jungle beat from like a cereal commercial. Like it's like the worst jungle beat. So I don't even think that. I think that's a distraction from what's really going on.
Yeah, there's no bass. This is actually why I like the sound, because when jungle drum bass first came out, we buy these 6 cassettes of drum and bass, and you put them on in the car, and there's no bass. It's just this tinny snare, like these aiming breaks. It's like, and that's what it sounds like to me. And I don't know if that's intentional. So, and then there's this really nice kind of breakdown, and they're aiming for this like epic, moody thing, and totally not nailing it in the slightest. It's
great.
It is great.
It's one of those like musical movements that just you can't hear it and not wonder what were they trying to do.
It's patchwork. It's like doing like little patchwork needle threading stuff, but sometimes it's not cohesive. It kind of like drops out, and that can be what makes the interesting bits.
Yeah, I love it.
It don't work so much with this one though.
When you were asking earlier about like the process stuff versus like first thought, best thought, like I feel like I'm always struggling to show the seams in the stitching, like for whatever reason, that's very expressive or meaningful to me to like sort of, I'm always bickering with engineers like, oh, don't neaten that edit, or like, don't draw that fade.
Tim, I would love to experience your experience of making music, because like I do music myself. Bloody hell, going into a studio, I've not done that for years. I'm so jealous.
The technology has shifted, and it's a lot. You could do it at home now.
That's what I'm doing. That is exactly what I'm doing. I'll give you a quick. You probably can't see it.
This room, and it's good. Yeah, I love the actually. Al, the murkiness of the stuff you make is beautiful, and I think it fits perfectly with your current setup. But so I don't want to keep Tim beyond his time.
Yeah.
What I'll do is
But
let's take
this band that is their first show in 40 years.
What's that one?
Bag people, they're called.
All right.
Bag.
Nice.
Oh.
Well, I mean, that sounds
Were
cool.
they on Doctor Who?
I don't know where it comes from.
Very, yeah. So once Tim's headed out, I'm gonna read what the other chaps think of it, but and then we'll call it. But is this new versus 10 Hours of Eve? That is apparently what we're discussing here. It's been quite a meandering discussion, which is beautiful. But Tim, I think I know it's where you're going to go. But what's your vote? Are you?
Me?
Yeah, Tim, you want to go for 10 houses?
No, 10 Houses of Eve for sure, yeah.
Yeah, good. Alistair, which way are you?
I'll go for House of Eve because it's a bit more wacky.
It is a bit wacky, isn't it? Interestingly enough, Michael and Max have both gone for. In fact, all of those fuckers have gone for "Is This New?" What's going on here? It's like are the internet people hearing different songs to us? So once again, it's a draw. And therefore, we have made no progress in this competition, which is exactly how I wanted it to be.
Completely futile endeavour. Well done, Brendan.
Yes, very good. Tim, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a delight.
Hey, Tim. Lovely.
Okay, I'm gonna leave.
Take care. Bye.
All right, thank you so much.
Bye. All right, well, that was spiffing, wasn't it? Let me read what these chaps think to justify the madness of voting for "Is This New?" Where are we at here?
I'm happy with carrying on, Brendan.
Do you want to do the last two then? Shall we do the last two while we're here?
Yeah, what the fuck?
All right, so Michael, he says, what does he say? I like this. I've always felt this track sounds a bit muted. It should blast out the speakers, but fizzles instead. The lyrics about identity, art, and shards relocate sound lovely, but I'm not sure how much the actual band are involved. Where Stu says, a sliced break does not D&B make. It just makes a chopped break. Where's the bass? Where's the body? Who produced this track? It's all threadbare until that lovely idiosyncratic break in the middle where we all wax nostalgic for a time we didn't experience. But then the shit break happens again, half-baked. Max,
God bless Stu. He does a wonderful job.
He does, and they've all three of them have gone on a bit about this because I guess it's just slightly different take on.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like it's dead good in parts, and then just goes like wonky, and you're like, right, no. But then it's like, yeah, there's something good about it.
There is indeed. Max says, when I first said this, it pretty much made me rage quit the Fall. They were on thin ice after Cerebral-Caustic, and when I had heard how fucked sounding Mez was on the first track, I decided he totally lost the plot. I've warmed to it a bit over the years, but it still triggers that memory. I was wrong. It was a blip. He probably wasn't even as wasted as he sounds, but there are some corkers on this album, but this song is a bit too triggering for me. I guess so. It was a bit of a left turn from what was the record before. That was like User Syndrome. Is that right? Is that the one right before this? I think so.
Don't ask me about this. I'm shit about fucking song titles. Like the actual chronology of everything.
I'm pretty sure that we went from like User Syndrome, which was pretty rocky with bricks involved, and straight into Levitate, which is this is the first song from that. So it's definitely a left turn, but a good
the first song on an LP. Wow.
Exactly. So and like I said, he ripped off Evil Hoodoo to some degree, which has got me thinking, like, if it was 10 years earlier, what that tune would have been.
Brendan, one of the things this podcast has done to me is stopped me from listening to F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T in their entirety, and they own a lot of F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T.
Well, why is that, Al?
Because I've been made to do my homework, and it's just like picking out little bits and bobs, which works.
Ruined it for you?
No, in some ways it's not done, but in other ways it's controlling and coercive behaviour, because you do this, Brendan. You make me listen to these songs every week.
Processing it. It's just the process. You agreed to it. You can. There's the door. Like everyone else who's left.
No, I'm just being controlling.
Here you go. Controversial. All right. Well, I don't think we should do the last two songs. We'll push them over to the next time. But
Yeah.
we got two draws here. I didn't want to bother Tim with it, but we'll go to the fingers and we'll see what Stu thinks, and we'll put them through anyway, right? So
It's a fucking 0-0, isn't it? Yeah.
well, telephone thing versus Deadbeat Descendant, right? Give me your points out of 3 for telephone thing.
Telephone thing wins. So 3.
3, all right, and I'm giving it 2, and Stu's giving it 1, so that gives it to 6. Deadbeat Descendant, what are you giving it?
Fucking brilliant. 2.5.
2.5.
Oh, it's 2.9999.
All right, so you basically give it 3. I've given it 1, and Stu's given it 3.
You're giving that 1.
Still wins. Al, it's got 7 points. So Deadbeat Descendant.
You're giving it a 1.
I like telephone thing better.
I put 1. Fucking hell.
Is this new? Is this new? How many points you giving? Is this new?
I'll score that smiley face.
Is that 1? I'm giving it 1. Is that 0? Stu's giving it 2.5.
2.5.
You got 2.5. So is Stu, and I've given that 1 as well. So that's 6 for that. And then 10 Houses of Eve. What are you giving it?
For the madness, I'll give it 2.6. Takes it 0.1 over the this is new.
3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6.6. So it wins. 10 Houses of Eve.
It's good to get into fractions just to fuck you up.
The decimal of the beast, 6.66. Anyway, that's enough for tonight, Alistair. Thank you for your input as always, and I enjoy talking to Tim. He's been one of my musical heroes, like I said, for a long time. Hopefully people
I'd love to have dug into more stuff by him.
Well, I post the playlist, so have a listen, and yeah, like I said, he's part of as many LPs as the F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T did in their lifetime, and he's our age. He's our age, Alistair. It's unbelievable.
It'd be interesting to know what diagnosis he's got, like to make him crazy all this stuff.
Hey, all you need is a prescription for more cowbell. Let's have a listen.
That's what they say, isn't it? Yeah.
Let's have a listen to the Fallout themes for the next 20 minutes, and then we'll go. All right. Thanks, Al. See ya. Take care. And take care, the both of you.
Yeah. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Al.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Ricochet continue. Yes, I do know I don't. Just pack or unpack, so our undoing can be done. skies are seldom gentle and never tangible. Daddy's too heavy to keep carrying. Up that mountain's wide clearing. Into all these incomplete animals inside me. I'm sick again. In a blizzard lit by city streets. Overnight, salt and lime have come to light in the morning. And nature's what we made of it. Can it just be nice to see me? Nothing is without life. I'm sick. The foxes ran ahead to head fox. The wolves scrambled to the church. Did you think it would work? Was it worth it? You keep starting stronger. Accept it. You need to choose. Choose to accept it. The only real need. You're spectator and actor in the same place simultaneously. Neither face gets preferential treatment. Accept it. You need to choose. Accept it. You need to choose.
choose to accept it. Your only real choice. Crash naked into the prototypical primitive sacramental blaze. Those same nothing and everythings that compel anyone to do anything, magnifying and diminishing the past with flashes of contrast. Accept.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you.
Thanks for me.